Hi, this is America Goes Orthodox. Today we are here with Michael. Hi, Michael.
Hello,
How
hello.
are you doing?
How's it going?
He's gonna tell a little bit his amazing story how God showed him the Orthodox Church. Michael, you can speak freely.
Okay, yeah. So, I lived in Damascus, Syria for 10 years of my life. I'm 20 years old, but I lived there for 10 years of my life. When I was 5 years old, the Syrian civil war happened, and I lived during the war for 5 years. So I was very close to death. Like, there's many times actually where I don't want to get graphic here, but there was many times where I came pretty close to dying during the war. Not to mention my father passed away when I was 5 years old as well. So from a very young age, I had to have I had a relationship with death from a very young age. And you know, when you experience death, and death is all around you all the time from a young age, it's very hard to live with that thought and have no peace. And so I spent my entire life always kind of fearing it at the back of my mind. And then it wasn't until we moved to Canada that that I started going to church, because when COVID happened, obviously you're isolated, you have no distractions. It's very easy to be stuck in your thoughts, and you know, all the traumas that I've ever been through in my life regarding death started coming to the surface, and I had to deal with them all. And I didn't know how to deal with them. It was very difficult to deal with them because I had no guidance. I had no father to teach me. And anywhere I went, there's always like something missing, right? There always felt like there was something missing, no matter what I read, no matter what I listened to, no matter what advice I took. Anytime I started doubting life and death and what the meaning of life is, it was very difficult to find peace with any of the answers that I was getting. It actually got so bad to the point where there was times I would stay up till 6 in the morning every night because I couldn't sleep. And I would just pray to God and ask him, like, if you do exist, then the least you could do is take my life away first before anybody else, because I don't think I can experience the grief of dealing with another person that I left dying. I already dealt with my father, and that was enough. I can't picture the ones around me else dying. And so I became very obsessed with this whole concept of dying, and it got very, very, very spiritually draining, to the point where I reached the point where I told God, I'm like, the only hope after death is going to be you, because you gave me this life, you created me, and if you could give me this life, then you could take it. And if you're gonna take this life, then at least take it somewhere meaningful, because what's the point in living this life and then dying one day, and then everything you've lived, every relationship you've built, just goes down the drain? It never made sense to me. I knew there had to be something more to life than just live and die and go back to just darkness and nothingness. And so, you know, so to summarize everything, like, I spent my entire life from the age I was 5 years old all the way up until I was 15 at the time, just fearing death like there was no tomorrow. Everything, like every time I'm having a meal with my mom, I'm thinking, what if this is the last meal? Every time I'm like playing soccer with my friends, what if this is the last time I'm gonna play football or soccer with my friends? And so I was like, there has to be something more to this life than all this temporary stuff. It's so finite, but I just couldn't seem to find something to fill that void, right? And it wasn't until I came across the Bible and I started reading one of the Gospels, and I read the story of Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. You know, I read all these people, these great figures of history, like, you know, Buddha, Muhammad, Aristotle, all these philosophers, but nothing was able to touch my heart the way like Christ's words touched my heart. Because at the end of the day, I realized this: I'm a personal trainer, okay? If I was out of shape, people are not gonna want to come train with me. No one, you want to look up to the person you're looking after, right? So if I want to live after I die, I'm not gonna go after someone who's dead. I'm not gonna go listen to Buddha because Buddha's dead. I'm not gonna listen to this person because this person's dead, right? If I want to live after I die, I'm gonna have to listen to someone who's showcased that. And I looked across all these different religions, and it was probably like a 6-month process, just studying this, looking at this, comparing it to that, doubting this. But it wasn't until I finally came across the words of Jesus Christ, and when he told Martha, he told her, anybody who believes in me will have eternal life and they'll never die. And so when I read that, I'm like, I want to know more about this Jesus guy. So I started looking into his life, and I started reading him, because mind you, I always thought he was just a historical figure. I never knew anything about his life. And the more I kept looking into his life, the more I realized, like, this is my father. This is the father that I lost when I was 5 years old. This is the father figure that my heart's been longing after my entire life. And this is the one who's going to fill that void, right? And it wasn't until I gave my life to Christ as a Protestant at the time. I don't really consider it giving my life to Christ, but at the time I thought it was. I found that all this pressure that I've built on my heart for like 15 years of my life, it just dissipated, it went away. And it was almost like an overnight thing. And from that moment on, I realized, well, if God could take this weight off my chest, then I'm sure he could take my life to the right place as well. But then for the longest time, it still wasn't enough. There was still a little bit of a quench, like a little thirst. And that's why I looked into the Orthodox Church. And then I realized this dates all the way back to his time. And if I want the most honest relationship with him as my father, because I didn't have a father growing up, well, I want to know my father to the best of my ability, right? If my mom was to come to me today and say, hey, your dad passed away when you were 5 years old, which I remember him, by the way, but if she was to tell me all these things about him, it would be nice to hear, but it wouldn't be enough to have a relationship with him. I would want to know what his brother had to say about him, what his best friend had to say about him, what his mom had to say about him. And so it's the same with Jesus Christ, right? It's not enough for a pastor in a Protestant church to tell me who he is. I want to know what his apostles had to say, what his mother had to say about him, what his cousin had to say about him, what John the Baptist had to say about him. I want to know as much detail and information about him as possible. And I couldn't find that anywhere else but the Orthodox Church.
That's
and
very beautiful.
Yeah.
Michael, what have changed? You are baptized already, you said?
Yes.
2 months ago?
No, I got baptized in December of 2024.
24, okay,
Yeah.
almost 2 years, yeah.
Almost
and
2
what
years.
have changed in your life since you became Orthodox? How this helped you, your relationship with your girlfriend, your business, and your mindset?
It allowed me to have a completely different perspective on everything. I used to think in a very worldly way, and I still kind of do. I'm overcoming that. Because you go do something, you're doing something for 20 years, it takes time to unlearn it. But I see things on a deeper level. Like for example, with my girlfriend, I used to always think, oh, like relationships are for fun. You get to hang out, you get to, fulfill your needs, you get to go out, have a good time, and then call it a day. But now I realize that there's more to it. There's deeper elements to everything. Same with business. I used to think, oh, let's make as much money as possible. But whereas now I think of it deeper. I'm like, hold on, forget the money. How many people can I help? So my perspective is shifted on a lot of things. Being my relationship with my girlfriend, I see the deeper elements of it. It's not just surface level anymore. And now I realize it's the same with my business. It's the same with my relationship with God. I realize there's more substance to life through the Orthodox Church. There's more meaning to it. And I've had anyone who knows me for the last 20 years of my life, even the last 1 or 2 years, ever since becoming an Orthodox, I have made more progress in the last year of being an Orthodox Christian than the last 5 years of being a Protestant Christian.
That's very beautiful. One last question for you. What do you have to say to those who are looking for truth? There is many people, they look for truth.
Take it from me, I'm the most stubborn person you'll ever meet in your life. It takes a gun to my head to convince me something. And I'm telling you, as stubborn as I am, nothing's been able to convince me of the truth in the Orthodox Church. Anyone that knows me knows you cannot convince me of anything. It takes a lot to convince me. But when it comes to the Orthodox Church, I'm like a baby. I take it right away and I was very stubborn in the beginning as well. But my piece of advice would be look, man, life is short. I'm telling you, take it from someone who lived in a war. Take it from someone who lost their dad when I was 5 years old. Life is not very fair, and it's not very long either. It's very finite, and you're not going to get that peace on your heart until you allow Christ to heal it. Because essentially, in this life, you're going to suffer. It's inevitable. If you don't suffer, that's a problem. And you got to look at Christ because he's the physician, he's the doctor, right? So either stay sick your entire life and end up like me, depressed for a year out of your life, and you lose all meaning to life, or just open up your heart and allow Christ to come and heal it because he's your doctor.
That's
and your
very
father
beautiful.
and your
That's very
friend. Yeah.
beautiful. If you have the Jesus Christ in front of you right now, what do you have to say to him?
Oh, thank you for putting up with me. I'm a character, man. I would say thank you for putting up with my attitudes and my lack of patience.
That's very beautiful. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you, man.
This is American Orthodox Church.